Hey Afronauts, I'm Chelsea Gaydon.
I'm Jill too. Welcome to the show. I think this is our last episode of 2023.
I think so.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy. Yeah, November just flew by. And here we are in December. And Beatrice is sick.
I know.
Bummer. Pneumonia?
Pneumonia.
Pneumonia, straight up pneumonia. Ugh, that sucks.
I don't think I've ever had pneumonia.
Me neither.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. But we are here and we are healthy for the most part. How was your week?
This is pretty good. I reorganized my office. I did a new setup so that I have like my 9 to 5 in one spot and then like podcast writing stuff in another. And so far so good. I feel like I can actually switch gears rather than like completely changing out my setup every time. So far so good.
That's nice. I like how you're doing like your New Year's resolutions, but early. You're like, I don't need to wait.
Oh yeah. I basically started like my New Year's resolutions now. Like just because I know that there's gonna be like there's always things that like hang me up. So I wanted to like get those out of the way. So then like in the new year, I'll be like a month and a half in and it'll be
You'll be
smooth
ahead of the
sailing.
game. This is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Playing 40 chess. Oh, that's great.
What about you?
My week was good. This weekend, my kids had 4 birthday parties to go to, 2 each, which
Ooh,
was a
how y'all
lot.
know so many people?
It's at school, just like school friends.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Everybody goes, yeah, but it was a lot. And there's a lot of sugar and a lot of like candy they took home in the goodie bags. And so there's still a lot of sugar in the house. So they're like a little crazy right now. They may or may not have had like lollipops for breakfast today, which is like a problem.
That's good.
Not just lollipops, but lollipops were a part of the complete and balanced breakfast. So reining it in and getting back to a diet that is more stable and healthy. But yeah, it was a lot. Just a lot of birthdays. But yeah, other than that, I'm good. I am like a week from my deadline for this middle grade revision, and then I have a week before it's due to like read through. And my editor requested some like front matter, like some map stuff, some glossary stuff. It's set at like a Renaissance festival, so I have to define like privies and like steak on a stick and like funny like Renaissance festival things. So I think it'll be really fun.
I've never been to one.
Oh my gosh, you should go.
I've always wanted to go.
There's a big one. I don't know if there's one in Vegas, but I know there's a big one in Arizona. If you ever want to go down that way, or there's other places, but I think in California too. But yeah, they're very fun.
I'm sure they're all over. I've just never gone.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's just like a unique brand of like kitschy, like tacky, but also like sort of like magical suspend your disbelief. Like it's just a great little mix. Actually, I'm wearing my medieval times shirt today, so I'm
Nice.
all about that life today. So yeah, if you ever have a chance, highly recommend it. It's just kind of it's a fun time. Yeah, what are you working on this week? Anything?
I've been in Pinterest a lot, like coming up with images. So I've listed out like all the characters that are going to be in my book, and I've just been in Pinterest like. So I'm thinking like there's going to be like a kind of not murder mystery element, but someone's gone missing. They don't know where they are, who's responsible.
Nice.
And everyone involved could be potentially responsible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
are you like face casting on Pinterest, or like what are you doing on?
Well, I'm just kind of coming up with like vibes and like costume, like it's like a reality show, so like people are going to be like different personalities, different like.
That's great.
So I'm just coming up with like characters.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's really cool. Are you reading anything?
I finished Gideon the Ninth. Did I start anything new?
Oh, nice.
I think after Gideon, I kind of just like took a little pause. I think I've just been in my project world for a bit.
That's fair. I have a new project that just got greenlit last month, and I'm gonna start drafting that in the new year. But there's going to be a love triangle, but it's going to be a standalone. And so I asked for some input on Instagram with people who like were familiar with a bunch of like speculative love triangles ideally in standalones. And I got a recommendation from one friend, Belinda, who said that a book called Nightbirds has a really good love triangle, and like it's a series, but there's only a love triangle in the first book, she said. So I've been listening to that. It's very good. It's by Kate Armstrong, who does she is a podcast host on Pub Dates with Amy Kaufman. I think they both live in Australia. That's an excellent publishing and like writing podcast. But this book is so good. It's like a fantasy prohibition era type of fantasy land, like different world, but kind of like prohibition coded. And like magic is the like illegal substance.
Ooh, that sounds really, what's it called again?
Nightbirds.
Nightbirds.
Yeah, the world building is just amazing. Like she's just really thought through like so many elements of it, and the main characters are all so different, and they each have their own kind of special sort of magic, and they wear these like bird masks that sort of like protect their identity from their like clients and suitors. It's very good.
Ooh, I like masks. I think I'm gonna have masks in
Masks,
my
any reason to
project.
like yeah.
Masks are fun.
Yeah, definitely agree. So that's been really fun. And I finished Calamity by Constance Fay, which was like a space opera romance like type thing, and that was really fun. Very like zippy, like good adventure. I like that a lot. So yes, I'm just reading. I'm trying to like, I don't know, I'm kind of bummed because I usually like to take a good chunk of December off from like writing and just like dive into my TBR and like watch a bunch of stuff. But I think I'm gonna have to write through it, which I'm kind of like happy about, but like coming to terms with. I've had a book out on submission on proposal for a while, and we got some really good feedback from editors that they love it, but it's just really hard to sell on proposal. And so they've asked us to go ahead and like draft the rest of it and then come back. And so that's what I'm doing right now, is just trying to get that done. Or no, that's what I'm going to do after this middle grade revision is in. So the rest of December and then a good chunk of January, just trying to crank out the last like 40 to 50,000 words of the story, and then get it back out there. So it's for a good cause, and I'm really excited, and I like know where the story's going. I think it's going to be great. But I'm also like, oh, but I wanted to just like
sell it,
eat cookies and like watch movies and stay up late and play video games. I might do like a week of that. I might do a week of that over like Christmas.
Yeah, I think you should get like at least some
Yeah.
time, like whatever break, like maybe in between, like when you finish the middle grade, give
myself a little bit of like a breather. I feel like there's some admin stuff I need to catch up on, some marketing stuff. So I might like just give myself a second to like I think that's right. What else is coming up for you the rest of this month? Anything?
This month, nothing I can talk about. Yeah, so
it's true. Waiting on some information.
But in the meantime, I'll be working on my fun little project.
Yeah. Woo. Well, it's exciting. We love that. Oh, and I have something exciting too for anybody who's listening. So it's almost time to reveal the cover of The Dividing Sky, and Chelsea has seen basically the cover. So Chelsea knows what we're working with, and it's very exciting. And I, I'm definitely going to reveal it myself, but I also, like, for people that have been listening to this podcast or just like following me or any of us on social media for the past few years and been part of this journey, like I want it to be like an us thing. And so if you're listening, like, and you want to help reveal the cover and get a sneak peek of it before it's out, would love for you to DM me. I'm at J2TEW Writes on Twitter and Instagram, or you can DM me on TikTok at Jill2. And let me know if you want to be a part of it, and I'll email you all the info. But I think it's going to be probably sometime in January. So we're just getting everything ready before the holidays to go with that when it's time to go. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's so, like, your cover reveal is coming. Like, when you say coming, January?
I think like, so yeah, we'll see. Like, I don't know exactly the timeline. What I've heard, and I don't know if it's different around the holidays or every book's different, but what I've heard is typically for my publisher, pre-orders go live like almost to a T, like 9 months before a pub date. So October 8th.
9 months, like, really?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like a baby.
Very specific.
Yeah, right. I have no idea why. And so if we're thinking about those, and then like I know that lots of covers go live when the pre-order link is up, right? And so I'm just
so you'll be doing the cover reveal and the pre-order, like
it's
it's
like,
real.
Really real. Yeah, exactly. which is like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. Like, I know I wrote a book, but I don't know if I want anybody to read it, but it's happening. So yeah, so if you're listening and that sounds cool, I'd love for as many people to be a part of it as possible. I just feel like I wouldn't be here without y'all. And knowing that there's this community of fans of speculative fiction and Black fans of speculative fiction especially, that keeps me going when I'm like, who's gonna read this? It's like, well, y'all are. So I want everyone to be a part of it.
Yay. So excited for you. Like, I
It's
hope you
happening.
just like enjoy the whole process.
I know. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And speaking of that, I think, this episode that we're about to play, talking to the handful of debuts we talked to, just about keeping that healthy, appreciative headspace. It's so hard. It's so hard. And this was, we talked to them a few months back, but even harder now, I think, as pre-orders go up and you can see who's getting what sorts of marketing or publicity or being sent to conferences. Like, it's so easy to get in your head about stuff. But I loved that kind of real talk conversation with them about celebrating the highs and the lows and acknowledging the sort of like opacity and lack of information sometimes, and just being like, well, I'm going to keep my head down and focus on the part that I can control. So they were awesome, and excited for them to see success in 2024 too. Today, we're excited to have a very special episode with some of next year's debut authors, Sami Ellis, Ashton Lattimore, Avione Lee, and Rae Giana Rashad. We'll be getting into the nitty-gritty of all their debut years, highs and lows so far.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Having us.
Yeah. Yay. All right, well, let's start off with everybody's new least favorite question. Can we go around and have y'all introduce yourselves and give a quick pitch of your book? And can you also let us know, if you know, like the month or date that it's releasing? So Ashton, you're first on my screen. Can you go first?
Okay, I'll be the sacrificial lamb. Let me give this a try. I'm gonna do the best I can. Okay, so first I'll introduce myself. I'm Ashton Lattimore. I'm a historical fiction author. I'm also a journalist. I'm the editor-in-chief of Prism, which is a nonprofit news outlet. My novel, All We Were Promised, is due to come out April 2nd of next year. In my quick pitch, let me see how to sum all of this up. So All We Were Promised is set in Philadelphia, around 30 years before the beginning of the Civil War. Philadelphia at this time is about the southernmost northern city. So it's a site of intense racial conflict and the nascent abolitionist movement. So you've got slave catchers, riots, and amid all of this, the story of All We Were Promised centers on three young Black women, all three of them in vastly different circumstances. One is a housemaid with a dangerous family secret. One is a young woman from the city's Black elite who is trying to do activism while her parents are trying to shuffle her off into marriage. And the third is a young enslaved woman who's been brought to the city by her mistress. And basically the three of them band together to try to free the one who is still enslaved, navigating all of their friendship stuff, their family stuff, and their many, many personal secrets in a city that's really on the verge of disaster.
My name is Avione Lee. I am engineering by training. I have my PhD in biomedical engineering, but I started writing several years ago. And my first novel is going to be coming out. It's a middle grade fantasy, and it's going to be coming out with Simon & Schuster. I do not have a date. I don't have a cover, and I don't have a title because they do not want to use my title. So it's just my book. I can at least tell you what it's about. Okay, so my novel is about a colorblind boy who discovers he's a Pied Piper and can turn music into colorful magic, but it's the kind of magic that is not accepted.
I am Rae Giana Rashad. I am a speculative fiction writer from Texas. My debut novel, The Blueprint, it will be published February 13th of 2024. The Blueprint is the story of Solin. She is a young woman coming of age in an alternate oppressive United States. She becomes entangled with a white government official, and she navigates those experiences using the story of her ancestor, who was an enslaved concubine in 1800s Louisiana. So it's a bit speculative, but it's also rooted in history.
If you haven't read the excerpt on Rae's website, go check it out. It is phenomenal. This book is like chills from like the first chapter.
Thank you for that.
My name is Sami Ellis. My debut novel, Dead Girls Walking, is coming out March 26th, 2024 with Amulet. And it's a YA horror novel about a very angry young lesbian trying to find out if her serial killing father killed her mother. But when she goes to investigate the campgrounds that he used to, dump the bodies at, she has to pretend to be a camp counselor because it's now a horror camp for teens. So, it's one of the main things I always talk about is like, the story is like, oh no, what do I do about this, huge emotional turmoil? But also I'm very mean and angry and I have to pretend to be nice to all of these people.
Oh my god.
Like that's the genuine conflict of the book.
Yes.
That is so real.
Yeah.
That is so real.
I love
I
that.
gotta be
It
nice.
is
I love
awesome.
it. I mean, I'm terrified just
Right.
hearing that.
And Sami,
Yeah, no.
Sami, you just had your cover reveal too, like as of this recording.
Yes.
Yeah, which is
I don't remember when, it was a few days ago.
it's so good.
It was
It's
awesome,
so
though.
good.
So, as you guys have been leading up to your debut, what has been the most rewarding part of this process? And also, what has been the most challenging?
So I have an anthology, a story in an anthology coming up, which I've talked with y'all about before, but I think one of the most rewarding parts is seeing people mention my debut when they talk about the anthology. Like somebody said that they looked up my debut because of my short story in the anthology. I think that that's definitely a highlight because, as we've all just said, like being an author is very difficult. There's a lot of like random things that we don't know what to do, but like just having a bunch of potential readers is kind of the fun part for me. I'm supposed to say the most challenging part. I would definitely say.
If you want, go ahead.
I was like, I want to skip that actually. I don't want to talk about it.
I was like, I'm finished.
It's too traumatizing.
I'm done.
Definitely for me, is I joke about it, but I'm actually genuinely really bad with like nice words and people complimenting me and stuff. Like I joke about it and people probably think I'm not being serious, but like genuinely, it takes me like 30 minutes to be like, thanks. It's like, oh, I liked your book. I'm like, oh my gosh, they said they liked my book. Like I panic. I leave the computer. I can't handle it. And like, I know that it's something that I have to get used to because I honestly, even though, I don't think it's a bad thing about myself, like, I also think it'll get very annoying to people like 30 years into my career and they can't even, say thank you in a book signing because I'm like freaking out on them. So like, it's really challenging to try to get over that, but like, I definitely feel the benefits of doing so.
What have I found most rewarding? I think connecting with other authors has been really nice. I spent a long time alone, like just writing, the book by myself and alone with my little research books. And don't get me wrong, I love being by myself, introverts forever. But just having the space to connect with other debut authors has been really nice. And starting to begin the process of getting to know some more established authors as well as the book gets out into the world. It's just kind of cool to feel like you're joining a new kind of community. For the challenging piece, I think just the wait. We sold the book, I think it'll be like a full 2 years by the time it comes out. And it's just so hard to be working so hard on something for so long and just feel like it's not real because it doesn't exist in the world and nobody's ever heard of it. I mean, we're just now getting to the point where, you know, I have a cover and there are arcs out in the world, but prior to this, it's just kind of toiling away in obscurity. And everybody's like, oh, what are you working on? And I'm like, oh, this thing that you're not going to see for another year and a half. So the wait, I think, has been a big struggle for me.
That's so real.
The rewarding part for me is just seeing the book through. So it has, you know, it took me so long to write the blueprint. And you know, when you hear writers say that their manuscript or their book is their baby, it takes on a whole nother meaning. It really is your baby. It's, you know, a presence that, well, the blueprint has been a presence in our house for the past 5 years. I mean, my youngest can't remember a time without the blueprint. And so being able to, you know, share that with my kids, to have them see this thing from start to finish, and that this is real and that it's really happening. And this is what happens when you persist and you love your art and when you create. That has definitely been the most rewarding. I mean, they're just so excited. They, you know, they think that they're going on tour and you know, they think it's their book. And so I love that. I love seeing that. The most challenging, well, there are two parts, but I guess I would say the most challenging has been just flipping the switch from being a writer to an author. They're different. You know, when you're writing, you just draw a circle of solitude because you need solitude to get that project done. And then when you become an author and it's time to put on the business hat, you know, if you want to be read, you have to be seen, you have to be out there. And with, you know, with my personality, that has definitely been a challenge, but we're getting there.
Okay, so I feel like I'm behind everyone in here since I don't have all the cool things they have, and I'm so jealous of it all.
You and
So
me, we're together.
we're together,
I was
Jill.
about to say, Jill is in the same
I'm in that
situation as you.
September bucket. Yeah.
Yeah, sit by me, you know, in the cafeteria because I'm feeling the jelly points on everybody's covers and everybody's titles. So the most challenging part for me would be that I don't have a title and they do not like the title that I want it to be, which is Pied, because it's a Pied Piper story, and I'm kind of making it out to where there's a Piper magical community and the Pied Pipers are the ones that are discriminated against. So I just want the title to be Pied and like Wicked or, you know, something like that. And they're like, no, we actually don't want it associated too much with the Pied Piper. That might be too scary for kids. I'm like, okay, I don't understand why,
Come on.
later. Yeah. So we'll see. I'm hoping that they can come up with a really cool title that I'll love. And no one will ever know if I don't love it. You know, Sami might. All y'all might, but never tell the public. But that's kind of challenging. I am finishing up another round of edits that's due September 5th. So that's about 2 weeks from now. So I'm still kind of like, it's 1 week from now. I know it's coming up. So that's a little challenging.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mini heart attack. So that's a little challenging. But the most exciting is this is my first big debut thing being on this podcast. I thought it's so exciting. So that's something fun to look forward to. And I'm hoping when the cover art kind of that stuff starts to get going, I think that should be pretty exciting.
Speaking of maybe having disagreements, miscommunications with your agent, editor, publicity, whatever. I know a lot of y'all aren't maybe that far into the process yet, but maybe agent, editor, at least. I'm really interested in the way different authors maintain these different relationships with these different personalities and these different, you know, this can be a really tricky situation. And I wanted to ask everyone, how do you maintain your relationships with people, especially during a debut process, which can be difficult and tricky and complicated and confusing. So tell me about it.
So my book has gone through a lot of editing. So it is a heavily edited book because it's been through a couple writing programs. And so it went through 2 different people's editing, my Pitch Wars mentor, and then my agents and their whole teams mentoring through it. And after that, now the editors mentoring. So there's been a lot of like, maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that with it, that I had to be kind of like, no, I don't like that, but I'll do something else and hopefully you like it. Because I got some author wrote some kind of advice about how he's like, yeah, usually when they say I think it was Neil Gaiman, I'm not too sure, but they were like, usually when they want you to change something, they're right, but the way they want you to change it is completely wrong. So I took that to heart. And so I would just kind of think about what they want changed and try to think of my own way to change it to help out with the editing. Luckily, I didn't have to push back a lot because they are kind of on the same page with things that need to happen. They just want me to cut a whole bunch of words from my novel, and they're just picking a whole bunch of things to cut. And I'm like, I'm not going to cut that, but maybe we can cut this thing over here. So that's the current struggle.
Compromise. Okay.
I would say for me personally, one of the things that I learned, and I'm sure that, a lot of young Black professionals could probably see this in themselves, is that working really helped when it came to pushing back and checking in and making sure things went my way. Of course, I was told no and things like that, but I have seen so many different authors like be debilitated with fear over pushing back over something. Meanwhile, when I got my first edit letter, I remember like being like, all right, so this is what we not gonna do. Like, here's all of the things on your edit letter.
Let me edit your edit letter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I'm gonna edit.
I have
exactly. These are bad ideas, but these are really great ideas, and I'll do those. And I work with kids. Working with kids, specifically with like writing and stuff like that, I think I kind of just like learned how to be professional about editing and learned how to be professional about taking direction. And I would say that it's not that different from just office culture. It's not all that different from, having to go up to your, manager and, asking for a raise, or, saying that their project idea is dumb, which I have done before in business meetings, so like, it's not that different. And one of the best things that you can do for yourself is to kind of overcome that fear, because you accepting something you don't like, you're going to be stuck with that dislike and that reminder of that dislike for the life of your book. If you ask for something and they say no, you deal with that embarrassment for like the rest of the day. And then you can just move on, right? I'm very righteously angry. I
was gonna say, I feel like it's a theme. It's a theme in your writing. It's a theme.
Righteous anger is powerful. I can see that. I see
it.
that. Absolutely.
I'm extremely righteously angry, but from my day to day, I do not remember, all of the no's and you can't do that.
And for me, it goes back to what Sami was saying. I think that my editorial process went relatively smoothly. And I think it's because early on, I learned that I couldn't just communicate about story arc and character arc and plot. It was important to communicate my authorial intent and my purpose for writing this book. And when I sat with that, I thought about it and I said, if I don't make these things clear, then I'm going to end up publishing a book that doesn't look like the book that I want to publish. And so I made that clear up front to my agent, who was very editorial before we went on submission, and with my editor. And I think that, yeah, that I think that helped and why we didn't have as many hiccups that I hear from other people. Um, Especially for, you know, Black women, Black writers, you know, you don't want your messaging muddied or skewed. And so when they want to go in and cut all of these things that they think, well, you know, this is not important because they need to save paper, or because it's just cheaper to print this shorter book. Well, we can cut some things, but we can't cut things that will muddy my messaging. And they were on board with that. So yeah, I would say make that clear up front when you're, you know, going through your edit letters, what your messaging is, and stay true to that.
Can I ask, Ray, when you said you clarified it with your editor, was that before you accepted the deal, or was that on your like first call when you got into the editorial process?
It was the first call. Yeah. So yeah, I had to make sure because you know, you hear so much about that. Well, you know, find someone who understands your book, and I think that's especially true for Black women or people in general. If you take on weighty topics, to make sure that they understand this is what I'm trying to say, because you know, um, reading is so subjective, and you know, they could read the book and think that you're going in one direction, or maybe I don't know, they could secretly want to take it in a different direction that maybe makes it more palatable or more commercial. But yeah, I wasn't interested in that. And so, yeah, I feel like if they know up front, then we won't really have any issues. And it worked in my favor. So,
Wonderful
I just
advice.
I wanted to say you said something that really resonated with me. I had the call before the deal, and they suggested that I took this very violent part of the book out. And I was like, I see you're making great points. And I understood what they were saying. I accept the deal. And then I start really thinking about the story that I'm trying to tell. And I start thinking about my messaging and my purpose of putting that in there in the first place. And after I accepted the deal, I stole it. Remember that thing that you told me to do?
Not taking it out.
No,
Right.
let's
I'm not
run that
gonna do
back.
that.
Actually, I'm not gonna.
And
thought?
but like and also it worked out because my editor even said on the like last round of copy edits, she said, "I'm glad that you fought for this part." But like really like examining why you're telling your story and what you're trying to say is like super important when it comes to, you know, accepting and, you know, understanding what the edits and the feedback is all about.
Right, because they're not just words, you know,
Yeah.
you're creating a story, and we as writers, we have a purpose and a reason for writing these things. It's not just, of course you want to be read, but you want the right people to read the book, and you want the right message to be taken from the book. And you know, sometimes they may not see that right away, what you're trying to do. And so, yeah, as long as you are um, efficient and clear with your messaging, I think it helps so much, so much. It goes deeper than just the edit letter. It's a discussion. It's, you know, a meeting of the minds and really talking it through. My editor, she likes to say that the editorial process, she likes to approach it as a conversation. So she wants to hear what I have to say, and you know, she wants me to listen too. And I love that. I love a give and take, because um, she may have a direction or something that she wants to change about a scene or a character, and as long as I can understand why, I would be more on board with doing that, rather than to just, you know, just cut a bunch of things or change things that don't make sense for my messaging.
I don't know that I have a ton to add to what everyone else has said. For me, I'm an editor myself. In my day job, I work in journalism. So there's a part of me that's kind of bringing all of my own baggage from my day to day into the relationship with everyone else, which is like feeling how sometimes frustrating or difficult it can feel when a writer is not open to the editorial process. So I'm in some ways the reverse. I'm bringing all of my sort of people pleasing tendencies and willingness to like, all right, let's get this done. Let's move it along. And what Rae has said really resonated with me, because it's not something that I came to until much later in the process, this willingness to kind of share, well, no, here's why I'm making this editorial choice. And here's why the thing that you're suggesting to me actually doesn't work for what I'm trying to do. There was this one edit that was suggested that I should change I think it was like a piece of dialogue or something that was making it seem like this wealthy character was kind of looking down on these lower class women that she's helping. And my editor said, this comes across as kind of, snooty. And it's like, I was like, yes, it's supposed to. You're not supposed to like her in this moment. She's a character with good intentions. She has a savior complex. And I'm trying to balance those two things. So I don't want to change this to make it seem like all of her intentions are pure and perfect and good, when she actually is coming from kind of a snooty and highfalutin place in some of the ways that she's moving. So I think sometimes, but I didn't come to the point where I was willing to sort of explain, here's why I did this, until she'd flagged it like 2 or 3 times, like over the course of several different rounds. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm not going to change this. So I think I need to explain like why it's going to stay the same way that it is. So yeah, I think being willing to explain things, I know in terms of our intent, is useful. But yeah, relationship wise, I otherwise just kind of treat it like any other professional relationship. And I've had a pretty easy time overall with my editors and my agent. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. The only thing I've struggled with is, again, that baggage from sort of journalism where things happen much more quickly. So when somebody says soon in the news business, it means like tomorrow, later this week. Somebody says soon in publishing, it means like within the next 2 seasons of this year. And I think that's been the toughest adjustment for me. Just understanding that, what I mean when I say something and what somebody else means within this space are not necessarily the same thing.
Oh, yes. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about marketing. I know we've talked a lot in the Slack about different marketing kind of perspectives as authors. I'm wondering if any of you are planning to do any marketing outreach on your own, or are you letting your publisher handle it? Have any of y'all had a sneak peek at their marketing plans for you yet?
Most of what I've seen has just been what's on the back of my arc. And those kind of look the same across everybody's. So I don't know how much stock to put into that. So I haven't seen, the official marketing plan or anything, or we haven't had our meeting yet. I think that's going to be sometime in the fall. That said, I'll do what I can. There are some folks I know, just being in the media space, who might have an interest. And of course, I have a publication of my own that sort of related enough that I think it's partially a platform that I think would be a natural fit for helping to kind of share news about the book. But I recognize I'm kind of out of my wheelhouse here. And the folks, the publishers, are the ones who do this for a living. So my hope is that I will be able to certainly be a team player, contribute as much as I can, but let them drive the bus. We'll see where the bus starts going, and if I need to take the wheel, then I certainly will.
Turn the bus around.
But yeah, for the moment, that's where I'm at.
I'm very anti promo for similar reasons, where it's like, y'all, the publisher is the one that got the money, the experience, the time. I got a day job. I can't be marketing on top of writing on top of everything else. So, when I say anti-promo, it's more so combined with all of that, plus me not liking nice words, it's mostly I just have to follow what they tell me to do. They told, that's strong language, because I definitely don't follow what they tell me to do, but
consider
what they tell me to do. If they're like, oh yeah, for example, when I did my cover, they suggested I tag their Twitter page promo for cross promotion. I was like, I'll do that. But when they said claim your Goodreads page, that sounded too hard. I'm not going to do that. I see the struggle.
It is really hard.
If you are not a debut author,
why we should do it either.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you are wondering what the struggles are of debut authors, everyone here who wants to be an author, claiming your Goodreads page is like you must solve the riddles 3.
Seriously.
Like, it's so difficult for no
Impossible.
reason.
Just let me in.
I've tried like 5
Exactly.
times. I was
You're
like,
still,
I
oh man.
not that into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
It
like
is brutal.
it's like some things are like I'll try and I'll put in the effort and I want us to work together. They've said I've had my own personal plans. They've said that they're going to work with me on them. But like if it seems too difficult, I can't promise. I
Pass.
can't make no
That's
promises.
fair. That's very fair.
And just as Ashton said, I saw my marketing plan. Just again, it's just part of the arc, and it's pretty generic. And so I guess that is the equivalent of not seeing a marketing plan because it's the exact same as all the other marketing plans if you
Right.
look on Edelweiss. And then to add to that, I noticed that the marketing plan that I've seen is a bit different from what they've discussed. So I'm not really sure what they do with that. I don't know if it's a copy paste job because someone needs to just, put something up. I'm not sure. But in terms of what I plan to do myself, I don't, yeah, I guess I'll do what I can if something sounds accessible or worth my time, then yeah, I'll do it. But then I guess it's another discussion. We've talked a lot in Slack about how our efforts don't really move the needle. And so when you sit with that, I don't want to spend a lot of time doing things that don't really work. So yeah, I just prefer to take their lead and wherever they tell me to be or what to do, I'll consider it. So
Consider it. Love that. What I'm hearing is overall you need to be pretty self-aware to know like what you can and can't handle, what is and isn't accessible to you, what which I think is really good advice for all of our listeners.
I'm coming a little different space because I'm middle grade. So I think these 3 ladies are YA and adult. I think Samira's is YA. Right? Yeah. I thought so. Yeah. So with middle grade, I am planning. I haven't met with my marketing team or publicity, but just me, myself, and I'm going to try to hit up as many elementary schools as possible in the local area. Yes.
Okay.
I got a little hint from Jill when you were saying you were going to send out, I think you were saying you were going to send out postcards or mailers or something a while ago. I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. So I was thinking, because I read all the mailers that come to our house.
Yeah.
If they look pretty, I'm like, oh, what's this? And then kind of put it in a drawer.
Yeah.
So I was like, that is such a good idea. I do check out mailers. So I was thinking, and they're so cheap. So I was like, oh, I could send some mailers to my local town and kind of just be like, yeah, schools, I'm an author.
Totally.
I'm in the area.
Yeah.
I can drive to wherever you're at. Hit me up.
Yeah. Libraries too. I think that'd be so cool.
And libraries.
Yeah.
Yep. So libraries and on our middle grade Slack, we have our little middle grade section. So we're like the little guys who are kind of like, hey guys, so are y'all talking about blurbs? They tell us that it doesn't matter with middle grade.
It's so funny. Yeah.
I still want them though. So we had the whole discussion on how, like Samira was saying, talk to, it's a professional relationship, talk to them. And I know Jill, when I was like, do I need to ask them about this? And you were like, yeah, ask them. So I shot my editor an email and was like, so, what's up with the blurbs? Written much better than that, of course. And she emailed me back. I was like, yeah, totally. Yeah. Give me your list. And so I sent it to her and she was like, oh, you know what? I actually know the editors of these people. Nice. So I'll try, try to send it out. You never know. They're super busy. But that's all I'm gonna do. Local stuff. Anything online, unless it's something like this. I am social media averse. I will do any podcast, any Zoom, but I'm not gonna interact too much online. I want to avoid it and unplug. So that might be off limits.
Yeah, and do your edits. Right.
Do my edits, right?
Yeah, I think like something that is like coming up a lot in the Slack in our conversations is like the difference in the decision makers you're targeting. So like the decision makers are different for every age category, which is why like you have educators and librarians for some age groups, and then you have booksellers. And like even the conversation around blurbs was like, as a reader, like how often do you look at a book and be like, oh, like this author blurbed it, I'm going to buy it? Like not so much, but booksellers look a ton as like just a frame of reference for like, okay, what kind of book is this? What flavor is this if I don't have time to read it? And so it's just a question of like who that marketing element is like trying to talk to. And so I feel like, you know, we as authors can spin our wheels and waste resources if we're trying to talk to somebody who like isn't really looking to hear from us. Like booksellers are looking to hear from the publisher. And so, yeah, I think like if you do anything, you kind of have to use your resources to like talk to the people, you know, that you want to target in a way, like using a channel or a medium that like they're actually going to be paying attention to.
Jill, what are you doing for marketing? Speak to the class.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so my philosophy, and I think everyone says this, is like do the stuff that's fun. So like I will be doing the stuff that's fun. I don't know what I'm getting yet because I'm so far out. So some of it will be just depending on like what my publisher's able to put together. But
what about the emails that you've been doing pre?
Oh yeah. So
because I think people would really love to hear about that.
Yeah. So like my thing is like I think like what I enjoy about marketing is not the like shilling of it, it's like the connections. And so like something that I have been doing is asking friends and family. I'm lucky enough to have lived in different parts of the country and have family, you know, around the different parts of the country. So friends and family that are interested in helping me promote the book, I've been asking them to go and introduce themselves to like 1 or 2 local bookstores in their area, both as just like a, hey, like local bookstores are cool. And also to see if any of them would be interested in, I don't know exactly what yet, but some sort of like advanced like access to an e-arc or something when the time comes. So thinking again about like that sort of like intentional reach out as opposed to like blasting a bunch of random bookstores with like a postcard. I really wanted it to be like a face-to-face interaction. So just building connections like that. And then I think like I don't think this is like going to move the needle on anything, but stuff like, you know, going to different conferences just because they're fun and like giving away some like bound galleys that I'm probably going to print myself at FedEx, like that kind of stuff is just fun.
Conferences were good to go to. Like if you spend money on something, I did hear that wherever the readers are at, if you go there, that is like worthwhile.
Yeah, I think so. And like this is like you only get one debut, so I'm gonna have fun with it. Like it might be a total waste of energy and time. So I'm gonna enjoy the ride.
I love getting your emails.
Oh, thank you.
Jill.
I'm a little late because I've been revising.
I used to love getting your emails. And Slack and.
So we're a big advocate for mental health on this podcast. So one question I have is, what have you guys been doing to protect your mental health and your peace during this time leading up to your debut? Or what's something that you're planning on doing as you wrap up or as you ramp up?
I'm definitely going to be one of those people who reads reviews. I know myself. I'm not going to be able to not look.
Yes.
Is that good?
It's not going to be that. It's not going to be like avoiding.
Okay.
It's going to be what it's going to be.
What I have learned is that if I do a puzzle, I can stay away from screens for a while. So my favorite mental health practice is to put on Luther Vandross and do a puzzle, like 200.
Yo,
some Dance with My Father.
Amazing.
Yeah,
oh my God,
very peaceful, very like no screens. So I bought a bunch more puzzles because I've needed more to like stay away from my email lately, because otherwise I'm just constantly like looking for some book.
Yeah, that's smart. And there's like it's like tactile too. So it's like your hands are
very
busy.
Smart.
Not scrolling.
Yes.
That's great.
Okay.
Ashton's got a good that's a great Luther and puzzles.
It has to be Luther.
It's got to be Luther.
Don't try any other.
Absolutely. I'm with you.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much the same as Ashton. Just, you know, trying to avoid the inbox, the Edelweiss, the Goodreads, the NetGalley,
Mhm.
I knew early on that I needed to avoid those types of sites because, I didn't want to get sucked into a cycle. Of course, when your book first goes on NetGalley, nothing is happening. But the way that I am, I would be there all day refreshing and
Mhm.
watching
Yeah.
to see if it
Mhm.
changes. And then if something does change, then, you become defined by one opinion or
Mhm.
two opinions, whether
Yeah.
it's good or not.
Mhm.
And so, as soon as I found out that my book was available on NetGalley, I just went in and I just, blocked all those sites. I said, this is
Good
Amazing.
for you.
this
Good
Yes.
is
for you.
this has got to stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I
Protect
knew
your peace.
absolutely. I knew that, I couldn't start it. If I start, I wasn't confident that I wouldn't become a person who read every single thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this is not something that I came up with on my own. I try to emulate those who have come before me, and they all say, don't read anything about your book. Don't read your reviews. Stay away from it. And so they're saying that for a reason. They know more than I do. And so yeah, so I just try to avoid those things. And so far it's going pretty well. So we'll see what happens in the next 6 or 7 months.
Stay strong.
Yeah. Thank you.
I can say for myself, am, I don't want to say the opposite of Rae, but coming from the research field, when we have to submit to peer-reviewed journals, and then you submit your journal paper and they submit back every single thing that's wrong with it, and how dare you try to publish this? It kind of deadened me to people's opinions. So I was like,
Mm.
let me write back, but you got to respond politely. So let me write back and answer all these problems with my paper can get published, all that stuff. So on one end, it kind of just made me think, wow, everybody has an opinion. And my brain's kind of closed off from it. So I'll be interested to see how that translates to fiction. Because since my book has been so many eyes have been on it in this whole process, and I've gotten so many opinions, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, you didn't like that, but you know what? My other person liked it. So this is just
Yeah.
one opinion that, a very well-educated one, but it's like, oh, but it's just one. So we'll have to see how the reviews, I'm almost dead into Goodreads because of how it's just kind of grown over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 years. So I've conditioned myself not to go there anymore. And I go to read the reviews on basically any other website instead when I try to find books. But as far as relaxing, there is nothing better for me than running a really nice bath and chilling out with some bath oils and just relaxing in there for as long as possible.
Yes.
And I love it so much. So, and I just have a dinky little bathtub. So one of my dreams is to get some publishing money and
Yes.
get a bathtub
Yes.
that I can just really enjoy my time in there.
Yeah,
And when I
we're
get
gonna
out,
manifest a nice
Mhm.
bathtub.
Right.
It's an investment.
Nice big
Yes.
clawfoot
I
porcelain.
don't need a car, but hook me up with, my nice
Priorities.
clawfoot
Yeah.
and my wood across, and I will just be in heaven. So
Love that.
yeah, that is how I relax. So some days it's like every single day. I'm like, okay, I'm taking time off. I'm going to go chill. And it's a complete unplug moment where it's just like I'm relaxing.
I wonder if the review thing is different for middle grade. I mean, do kids go on Goodreads or do they go
Other
online and
thing. Yep.
read it, or
That's a fair
I feel like
question. Yeah.
kids are so forgiving because
Aw.
they're just like lovely, So
Yeah.
and if they say they don't like it, it's almost adorable in what they might not like about it. And I'm, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and then when adults tear something apart, it'll be like, oh yeah, you've read 3 million books, so of course
Right.
you can see the similarities in one novel and these other 1,000 other novels you read. But for a kid, it's like maybe that's the only book they've ever read, or maybe they've read 5 books in their life, and that's a lot because they've only been here for 8 years.
Yeah,
They started reading a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. So it's like they're just excited, like, wow, this is so cool. So that's one cool thing about middle grade.
That's really cool.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily the pinnacle of mental health or mental wellness. I would say when things get tough, I typically, to protect my mental health, I try to, get back to the basics of mental health, if that makes any sense. So like taking your meds, going outside, making sure that you drink water. Like, I think that's basically like the most basic thing that I can do for myself. And I also lean on my friends and community and stuff a lot. Avione knows, I typically, I even have like a channel in our friends like that's just like keep me alive. Make sure I stay alive. Make sure that I
Make sure
have
Sami
not
gets her donuts delivered.
exactly. Make sure I haven't been eating only donuts for the past month.
Right.
Sami,
how are you eating today?
It reminds me of those apps that are like where like drinking water keeps a little fake plant alive, but it's Sami.
Yeah.
It's like to keep Sami.
That's
alive.
exactly
Water your
what it
Sami.
is.
Water your Sami plant.
Also, that's just all of our group chats. We're all just reminding each other to like drink water and eat food.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing also in our group chat. I'm like,
For real.
everyone, wake up. It's time to hydrate. That's my reminder.
Exactly right. And just the reminder, like, am I going crazy here? Because sometimes you can just be off yourself and you just need a check.
Yeah,
we even have a pick me up channel in our Slack, which is posting a lot of funny things to make people laugh. So that's another awesome thing.
Community.
So if there's anybody that's like me who's like not very self-aware, not very, I don't take care of myself. I try to do better. I'm old. I'm not a spring chicken no more. So I should take care of myself and not just like eat chocolate for dinner. But, I definitely think that it's worth it to like try to decomplicate things when you're overwhelmed by, like, let's say your debut year and you're like, I have to do XYZ, I have to do this, I have to do that. Peel everything back, like, no, all you gotta do is take these meds, drink a cup of water with it, and go to bed at a reasonable hour so you can get 6 to 9 hours of sleep.
That's great. Like, honestly, I know I forget the basics a lot of the time. I'll be feeling all overwhelmed. I'm like, oh wait, I haven't had water. And then of course there comes Beatrice with the reminder.
Yes.
I know that's right. Thank you. I was waiting for it too. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be me.
Just, get
Who
some
hasn't hydrated
sunshine
today?
It's like our time is dwindling. So we've got a wrap-up question for y'all, which is, what is something that you'll do differently for your next book now that you've gone through this experience or are going through this experience?
Write it faster. Just not take like 6 years to get to
Not
the fun
take
part.
forever. Yeah.
That is a number one. It has to get it has to get written faster.
Well,
Yeah,
It's
literally.
on contract.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I'll try to like write it correctly the first time. That's what happened.
Just don't write bad. Just write it good.
I'll write it good next time.
Write it
The
good.
best way, make your first draft your final draft and go. But no, like structure, because I sort of pantsed my way through the first say 70,000 of this book and ended up throwing out like 70,000 of what
oh no,
it just turned into a completely different book because in the process I discovered what the story actually was.
Right.
But with the next book that I've already started working on it, I'm writing from an outline, so I know that there's like there are story beats here, there are things that are going to happen, there's a place we're going, and there are characters that we're introducing, and like there's some method, and I find myself much further along and hopefully having to do a lot less on the back end. So just write it right the first time.
Right. And we joke, but like you do learn so much through this process of working with the professional editor. So like it actually does. I think in some ways it gets harder because there's the expectation in the audience that you feel like is waiting for your next thing. But I think in some ways the craft becomes a little bit easier too.
I would second the outline though, because I'm going to come in with, I would say for the book that's getting published next year, it was the same. It was like 70,000 words get thrown out because figuring out the story, and once kind of figured out what the story would be, wrote another like 70,000 and throw those away too, because it's like, oh, well, maybe that's not exactly right. And on and on and on until I figured out kind of outlining. And now I feel like I have a good system to where hopefully, I mean, I say that now, look at me, in April when I'm like, it's due this month. But hopefully the outline, I'll just stick to it and write the whole thing and be done with it instead of like veering too far away from the outline and being like, oh man, I'm in a hole again. So that's my dream for myself. Stick to the outline and finish the book, hopefully by Christmas, if I can, so I can get a couple more rounds in before the draft is due in April. I have not started it yet, so that is
good luck.
The life of an author for real.
Yeah.
I'm working on book 1, still trying to get that one in. So once September 5th hits, it's like, okay, I think I need to start this next one. Yeah.
I don't have a next book, at least in the sense of getting paid for one or anything like that. I think that one thing that like I said it earlier, but one thing I'm definitely trying to, learn to do differently is accept compliments and people being excited about things that I'm doing. I mean, I'm personally excited about things that I'm doing, but I want this next book experience to be like, feel a lot more, I don't want to say positive because that insinuates that it's negative, but I want it to feel less embarrassing. Like I feel like there's like such a huge part of debuting that I have kind of built in my mind as like an embarrassment. It's not necessarily shame. It's just like, oh, it's too much, and I want to kind of grow out of that. And like maybe book 2 is the one where like I'm like shedding, like in The Wiz, I'm shedding my clothes and I'm like, it's so exciting. Exactly.
Okay, Jill. I'm sorry. It just came to me. I was like, yes.
Sure. Yeah. And for me, I just have to learn how to lean into my process. So, we're joking about writing 70,000 words and having to throw out 70,000 words, but that's exactly what type of writer I am. I start with an outline, but I'm a discovery writer. I don't want to say that the characters take over, but the only way that I know to get to know my characters, get to know their voices, is to write it all out. And of course, for my debut, I felt like I was doing something wrong because I had to rewrite it so many times. I wrote it, read it, and I was like, this is terrible. Do it again. And then, this is terrible. Do it again. And so the constant rewriting is that's just probably just going to be part of my process. And I think that I just have to be okay with that. So just lean into it and just see where it goes.
So thank you guys so much for joining us today. One last question. So where can our listeners find you and pre-order your books?
And drop your pub dates one more time, please.
Yeah, my book is All We Were Promised. My pub date is, I'm going to start over. Are you going to okay. Yeah.
You're
Sorry.
good. Yeah.
So My book, All We Were Promised, comes out April 2nd in 2024. People can pre-order it on the Random House website, or they can find pre-order links at my website, which is ashtonlattimore.com. And you can find and follow me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, such as it is, at Ashton Lattimore.
So my book, the current title is Men and the Perilous Pipe. I was pushing for it to be called Pied, Men in the Perilous Pipe. So we'll see if I get that little win. But it's on Goodreads. There is no pre-order link yet. So Men in the Perilous Pipe on Goodreads. My social media handles are just my name. So it's Avione Lee, AVIONE LEE well, I guess that's it. It's at Avione Lee everywhere. So, yep, that's it for me. And my website also, just Avione Lee. Yep.
And the blueprint is available for pre-order. It will be released February 13th, 2024. You can pre-order it anywhere that you can order books, or you can go to my website, raegianarashad.com. And you can also find me on Instagram with the same name.
I am Sami. My debut, Dead Girls Walking, is out March 26, 2024. You can get it where books are sold. Please get it from, my publisher site. It feels like it's important. You can find me on Twitter at TheMoosef. People don't know, but that's the Moosef. But that's it.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining. This has been great.
Yes, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. It's been so fun.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend.